This week I have a fugue for you. This is number 204.01, and the thing about this one is the subject of the fugue only appears twice, once at the beginning and once again at the end. Every other statement of the subject is a variation of some sort. Now, is that still a fugue? I say, why not? Bear in mind that the fugue is more of a process than it is a genre. So as long as what you see on the page is a fugal approach to the question, what do I write next? Then as far as I'm concerned, it's as much a fugue as anything. All right, first things first, we need a subject. So I sat down at the keyboard and came up with that. In a fugue, choosing a subject is probably the biggest compositional decision that you'll make, so let's spend a moment on that. Subject absolutely needs to have a rock-solid voice leading, because a subject gets repeated so frequently in a fugue, and any weirdness at all at this point will just be annoying to the point of distraction. Subject should also have an obvious contrapuntal implication. And what I mean by that is when you look at the subject, you should immediately be able to visualize several contrapuntal opportunities growing organically out of it, even before you do anything else. I don't want a subject that traps me in one single harmony or in the tonic region or anything like that. At this point, I want to say that after I had my subject, I put it aside and mapped out the fugue and did all of my pre-writing, but that's not how it went. The moment I put this variation down on paper, the episode just kind of jumped out, and so I had no choice but to phone in my appointments for the afternoon and find out where it took me. Sometimes that happens, and I wish it would happen more often. Looks like this time around it took me to D major. After I had the subject and a nice little episode to go with it, I put those aside and mapped out the fugue, like I should have at the beginning. I wanted 4 voices, partly because 4 voices are enough to give me full harmonies and a little bit of wiggle room when the voices drop out, and partly because it's a texture with which I'm already rather comfortable. So these are all of the places where I plan to state my subject. If I allow myself to state the subject literally here and here and in variation elsewhere, then that means that I need to come up with at least 5 more and no more than 23 variations. So here are those variations in the order in which I wrote them. You can see the systematic line of thought that goes into the pre-writing here. So that page became my default source for material from this point forward. After that, I took the variations that I liked and put them in order with a few transpositions here and there so that they progress from stasis through tension and then back again, and then slap those onto my outline. At this point, I sat down and wrote out a couple more episodes to fit into the skeleton. And then I got bored and I made myself a sandwich, because you gotta have a sandwich sometimes. At this point, I see that I have enough source material on the page, so I can probably worry a little bit less about invention and concentrate more on filling in my transitions and my modulations. And you may have noticed that up to this point I haven't mentioned a counter subject either. You can treat counter subjects with even more flexibility than you do your subjects, and I don't see the need to repeat them quite as often. So after the initial statement of the subject, I have the counter subject in my back pocket for when I decide it might be useful. So here is the whole thing with the transitions filled in. I wasn't very happy with the solution that I came up with in this draft to move from the dominant region back to the tonic at the end, rather than fussing around with measures 88 and 89, which sound just fine by themselves. I rewrote measures 82 through 85 to establish the progression between the parallel major and minor in the dominant region, so that it's not so jarring when it appears in measure 88 heading back toward the tonic. So here's my challenge for you this week. It's time to get your fugue on. After you state the subject and the counter subject the first time, each reiteration after that should be a variation until the big recapitulation at the end. So make your recordings and show me what you can do. Sound off in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.